Welcome to NFL World, when the NFL starts and ends. I'm your host, Jacob. And welcome to episode 2 of the NFL Dream. Now, the NFL Dream, during the series, we will go through each team and say, okay, do they have a chance? Mathematically, anyway. What did they lose in free agency? What did they gain in free agency? What did they draft like? What was the record the previous year? What's going to be the prediction of this year? And a bunch more rules as we go along will be made and created. So let's first begin in episode 2 with the New York Jets. So the Jets, they fired their head coach last year in Robert Saleh. And we said here on this channel, I did not agree with that call. I thought that was the dumbest thing that you could have done. To fire the defensive coach, that the defense was actually playing really well. Firing him because the offense was bad. Or name the other defensive coach in charge, and every other defensive stat went through the roof negatively. Yards per game, points, everything went up. Like, I'll give you the best example. They were giving up less than 20 points a game with Robert Saleh as the head coach. When they went and fired him and promoted the defensive coordinator, they went up to over 30 points a game. That's problematic. You lose a lot of games if you give what happens. You per game, they were giving up less than 200, about 200 yards per game with Robert Saleh as the head coach. They were giving up 350 yards per game with the defensive coordinator as the head coach, and not Robert Saleh. That's problematic. It's not good. Doesn't benefit what you're trying to accomplish. So there was a negative. Bringing in Aaron Glenn, another defensive coach, I like the cut of his jib, the way he operates. He operates like he was a former player. He's gone through the ranks as a scout, an assistant. He's done everything. And now he was a coordinator last year with Detroit. Now he's in the head coaching seat with the New York Jets. I like what he brings. And I love that he's bringing in his guys. He brings in that approach is going to be necessary for him to be successful. Let's talk about some of the guys they brought in free agency. They brought in Justin Fields. That was one of the biggest moves they did. They said bye-bye to Aaron Rodgers. They said, we don't want you. Because what was the problem? We said the offense was bad. The offense had maybe 3 showings where they looked decent, and the rest was just terrible. Justin Fields, when he was a starter last year, in a limited size, played 6 games, was 4-2. He played really well. That offense in Pittsburgh was not easy to play with, by the way. It was because they don't take those shots down the field, really. They didn't want to. So they would take one or two of them a game, and then they would just run the ball up the middle and see what happens. So bringing in Justin Fields, you bring an ability that he can do run, he can throw, pairing him back up with Garrett Wilson, reuniting them like they were together in Ohio State. You do those things, that benefits the team. And then you have a good running back duo in Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. So I like that move as well. It's also a 2-year deal, 2-year deal, $40 million. That's all you're paying him. You're paying him $20 million. That's it. For a starter, which is hard to find. I take it. They re-signed Jermaine Sherwood, who played really well in the absence of now retired TJ Mosley. 3-year contract, $45 million, $30 million guaranteed. It's a good move. He kind of braked out. He's There's risk, obviously. He's undersized, but that works. You remember Malcolm Rodriguez, who played with the Lions, Aaron Glenn liked him. So Sherwood, I think, benefits there very well. Tyler Johnson, he came over from the Rams. That's probably close to a 1-year deal, but they needed a guy like that who was 6'1", who could move and help out Garrett Wilson. Josh Reynolds, they also signed. They describe him on ESPN as very well traveled. He's been to a lot of places, and he's been really good in a lot of places. He was in Denver the last few years. 1-year deal, $2.75 million. And that's all guaranteed. So, Reynolds, Lazard, they claim is the number one wide receiver. I don't see him as that. Aaron Glenn, let me restart that. Aaron Glenn won't see Alan Lazard as the number one wide receiver. Garrett Wilson's the number one. Clear as day. Chris Boyd, he's a former special teamer with the Houston Texans. He signed over. Stone Smart, he's coming back on a 1-year deal. Or he's coming in on a 1-year deal, I should say. Byron Cowart, the defensive tackle, he's coming from the Bears. Very cheap deal. $1.4 million, 1-year deal. $165,000 in a signing bonus. That's pretty much all you're getting for his services. And which we'll get into the losses of both Javon Kinlaw and Solomon Thomas a little bit later. Then they brought in Jay Talafale. They bring him in for depth. That's a good move on their part. Derek Nottie, move from their part. Jamin Davis, he's coming back. They brought him back. Keen Nwanu, he signed a 1-year deal, so there's no risk in that. Josh Myers, they needed another center, a starter anyway, coming over from the Packers. Isaiah Oliver, to bring him back. I'm going to butcher this name, I apologize. Chukwuma Okafor, he's coming over from the Patriots as an offensive tackle. There's been a lot of offensive tackle issues with the Jets the last few years. Brandon Stevens from Baltimore, 3-year deal, $36 million, $23 million guaranteed. We'll get into the losses in that department. Andre Cisco from the Dolphins on a 1-year deal, $10 million. So that really benefits the Kirby Joseph style, but Kirby Joseph is not corner, he's a safety, but you can say what I'm talking. You can see what I'm talking about. Rashad Weaver, the defensive tackle, or the defensive end, he's coming over, being paired with Will McDonald IV and Jermaine Johnson. And then finally, Austin McNarma, he's going to compete for punter. That's pretty much all it is. They did a lot of work with a lot of different names, and let's see how that benefits. In the draft class, who did they draft? Well, like I said, offensive tackle. The first round pick was offensive tackle Omar Membu, the tackle of Missouri. In round 2, they go tight end with Mason Taylor out of LSU. Round 3, I'm going to butcher this name and I apologize. Azaria Thomas, cornerback out of Florida State. 4th round, they draft Arian Smith, wide receiver out of Georgia. Another 4th round pick, this one is acquired via trade, Malachi Moore, the defensive back from Alabama. Round 5, Francisco Mauigoa, the linebacker from Miami. That was via trade. And the last pick was also in the 5th round, Tyler Barron, the defensive end out of Miami. That was a compensatory pick. So a decent draft. They drafted really well. Their last few first-round picks was Olufashanu and Armand Menbu. These are your tackles for the future. Bring those guys in. Bring them along. You just want someone that in Okafor who could be a spot starter if need be. Now, who did the Jets lose in free agency? Well, number one, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, that's number one. But you were kind of like, okay, goodbye, see you later. We didn't, because you cut him. You didn't just lose him. He wasn't out of contract. You just cut him. You said bye-bye because you couldn't handle it. The circus and the fact he wasn't playing very well, which led to even more of a circus, did not benefit anybody. New York is a tough place to play. Aaron Rodgers found that out very quickly, and I think everyone found that pretty quickly. Davante Adams, he signed with the Rams, even though it says here he signed with the Raiders. It doesn't make any sense. He signed with the Rams, but now it's changed. Now it says the Rams. Okay. Before it said the Las Vegas Raiders. No, it's not. It happened. Davante Adams signed with the Rams, one of the first dominoes to fall, really. Like, he agreed to sign there. I was like, okay. And the thing is, he could make that because as long as he doesn't sign, he can say that. It's fine. Which he did. He didn't say he was signing. They just agreed it. He was already a free agent. He was cut before the season even started. So he didn't have to worry about it. DJ Reed signed with the Lions. Okay, that's a good move on their part. Losing Carlton Davis, bringing DJ Reed, very similar player, very physical player, so that benefits everybody. Solomon Thomas signed with the Dallas Cowboys, not because of his ability, but because of what he brings in the sense of leadership. Is he a big sack guy? No, he's not. He's not even the best tackle guy. But losing him, you lose a leader, and that's what you don't want to lose necessarily. So they're gonna have to fix that. Javon Kinlaw signed with the Commanders. He got a really nice deal, which more than I expected he was going to get. And losing him to that was the reason I went so heavy at defensive tackle and the free agency, even in various other ways to describe it. Hassan Reddick signed with Buccaneers. That was one of the first moves in the beginning of free agency too. That was like the first signing that happened. Him going to Tampa Bay. Like that was like, whoa, okay. So now let's go into what they lost. We just gone from what they lost. So now let's go and say their record last year. They were 5-12. They won their last game, but they were 2-7 on the road, 3-5 at home. With this schedule, I predict, this is my prediction for the New York Jets, they are going to go 7-9. It's not going to be pretty. It's not a pretty 7-9, but they're going to go 7-9 because they got a tough stretch to begin the year, and it doesn't get much easier. Their first game is against Pittsburgh. Week 2 is Buffalo. Week 3 is Tampa Bay. Week 4, actually, hang on, let me say it again. Pittsburgh's week 1, they're at home. Against Buffalo, they're at home. Then they're on the road against Tampa Bay and Miami. Back home for the Cowboys in week 5. Then they're home in the London game against the Broncos, home for the Broncos across the pond. Home for the Panthers. At Cincinnati, bye week 9. Home for Cleveland. At New England, at Baltimore, at New England, at Baltimore. Home for Atlanta, home for Miami, at Jacksonville, at New Orleans, home for New Orleans, at Buffalo. It's not easy. It's really not an easy schedule. And especially, it starts off so rough. Because I don't know if they can beat Pittsburgh. I don't even know if they can beat Buffalo. Tampa Bay, I think they're going to struggle with, but I think they match up pretty good. Miami and Dallas are one of those in the sense of how their offenses are built. Not because they are. Miami's got the speed, as we talked about in yesterday's video, but Dallas, what they brought in, and George Pickens and using their offensive line and trying to build a run game in that direction, that causes some problems if you don't have a good enough team. So there's a little concern about that. It gets a little easier after that, but not much. But I do think they win 7 games. I do think they go 7-9, and I think that's a good year one for Aaron Glenn, in my opinion. Now, what is the thing they have to work on? Aaron Glenn, you brought in Aaron Glenn because you want to get tougher. You want to get nastier. And that's good. That's a very positive thing in the NFL. Here's the problem with that. Your team is already pretty nasty on defense. You got to get the offense rolling. You got to get this offense scoring more than 17 points a game. We talked about in the beginning of how good Justin Fields was and how they were playing. The Pittsburgh Steelers still had a hard time scoring. They still had a really hard time. So you have to figure that out. You have to. You have to score more points. You have to be more aggressive. You got to allow Justin Fields to be Justin Fields. But let's score points. Let's find a way to score points. So that's one of what I think they should work on. Figure out your red zone and scoring offense, but also figure out this offensive line. This offensive line, you brought in guys like Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith last year, and they were terrible. They were not good. They couldn't protect Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers was not doing any favors for himself. So there was a lot of things that they were trying to do that didn't benefit the team at the time. So if you work on that offensive line, which they've really built that offensive line up, and give that run game an opportunity to go and be explosive, yeah, I can see them going 7-9. But is that enough? We'll see what happens. Do I think they have a chance to win the Super Bowl? 7-9 with the way Buffalo can play and all these teams in the AFC, I don't think so. But I wouldn't be shocked. I believe in Aaron Glenn, but it might take more than a year to implement what he wants to implement. For NFL World, I'm Jacob Hubert.